Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through the translations notes. At the end of this, you should be able to say, I can translate objects and calculate translation vectors. Okay, so first thing, a transformation is a change in the position, orientation, or size of an object. Okay, so changing the position is a translation. Okay, that's like sliding something, pushing it one way or the other. The change in orientation is often caused from a rotation. So you take something and rotate it around, or reflecting it over some sort of axes of some sort. And then the change in size is usually caused by a dilation, and that's a stretch or a shrink of something. Okay, so with that, when a transformation is performed on an object, the result is called the image. The original is actually called the pre-image. So you have the pre-image and the image. Okay, so let's take a look at some more important stuff here. A translation moves a figure from one place to another. Okay, every point on the figure moves the same distance in the same direction. Okay, so for example, if we have point P, which is the x coordinate and the y coordinate, is translated h units in the x direction, so we're going to add h to the x, and then k units in the y direction, we're going to add y to the x here. Then the image point P prime, so that's the pre-image and this is the image, has coordinates x plus h and y plus k. Okay, so that's shown by this here. Hopefully this will make a little bit of sense. I know it looks a little confusing, but let's say if we start with this point here. So we've got this point right here is what we're starting with. We're going to translate it. We're going to take it and we're going to just slide it up to here. So it's going to end up being up here. And this is the h, so we're going to add h to the x. So that's where we get the x plus h. And we're going to add k to the y value. We're going to take it and move it up that many spots. Okay? So there's the pre-image, and then you add the x and the h to the x and the k to the y to get the image. Okay, this is shown. We write this pxy, point P, which has got the x and the y coordinates, is translation hk, and you end up with p prime being x plus h and y plus k. P prime is the image of object P. And then P is, of course, the pre-image. And then we call this HK here is called the translation vector. Okay, I know this looks a little confusing. Let's take a look at this, put it into practice, and I think it'll make a lot more sense. Okay, so example 1, rectangle ABCD has vertices A, B, C, and D, and it gives us all the vertices here. Find the image vertices when the rectangle is translated 6, -3, and then illustrate the translation. Okay? All right, I really think it's going to be helpful to actually have a graph so that we can plot these points, and I think that'll just make it a lot easier to understand. So let's do this. All right, so we've got A is at 210, so 1, 2, there's A. So there's point A. Point B is at 510. There's B. Point C is at 5, 4. 5, 4, so there's, let's see, that's going to be C. And then D is at 2, 4. So that's D. Okay, so it says find the image vertices when the rectangle is translated 6, -3, and then illustrate the translation. So here's our, first off, we have our points. So that's, I think this is going to make it a lot easier. So let's just draw in our rectangle here just so it looks a little nicer. Okay, because that's these 4 points that make up a rectangle. Okay, and this whole thing is going to get translated, and it's going to get translated 6, -3. So let's do this. We know that this here is the x, and the -3 here is the y, right? So let's do this. We've got 2, and then we're going to add the x part, so plus 6 is going to be our x coordinate, right? So that's going to give us 8, and then we're going to take the y, which is 10, and then we're going to subtract 3 to get 7. So the new translated point for part A is going to be 8 and 7. Okay, so let's put that maybe in red. So we've got, so now A is turned from 2, 7 into 8. There's 8. Sorry, 2, 10 is now turned into 8, 7. So there's our new A. Okay, so we can call that A prime. Okay, and then we'll just do the same for all the rest of these points. So that was A. So, oops, let's do capital A. That would make more sense. Point B is going to be 5. 5 is the x, 10 is the y. So let's add 6 and subtract 3. That gives us 11 and 7. So then point B is going to be 11, 7. Right? So if we go to graph that, that's 11, which is off the chart a little bit here, and then up here at 7. So there's B prime. Okay, and then point C, we start with 5 and 4, and we're going to add 6, subtract 3 each time. So add 6 to the x, subtract 3 from the y. That gives us 11 and 1. So that point is 11, 1. So we will now graph that one. Here's 11 and here's 1. All right, so there's C prime. And then the last part is D. So we start with 2 and 4. We're going to add 6, subtract 3. That gives us 8 and 1. So that point there is 8, 1. So when we graph that, there's 8 and there's 1. And that's D prime, and here's our new translated image, right? So we redraw our lines, and so you can hopefully tell this whole rectangle here was translated basically down 3. So each point went down 3 over 6, down 3 over 6, down 3 over 6, down 3 over 6, and that's the new translated image. Okay? All right, that's all we have for translations. If you have any further questions on this, please feel free to ask in class. Thanks.